Alright, hey, Shalom. Shalom. Want to begin by giving all glory and praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakak Wadash. Double honor to our beloved elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom to hopefully elect. And shalom to all the Akim pushing this truth with sincerity. It's your brother Itazawam, you call, from GMS Columbus, Ohio branch. And really just here record video through the spirit. But to be honest, through the spirit, I've just been thinking about the Gentiles, and understanding the Gentiles, etc. Which for us, it's one of them things like, we get it. You know what I'm saying? We have diligently searched the history, diligently, went into, the word Gentile, etc., beginning with our apostles on down. But, ultimately we understand that we have to go into it further. All right. And when you go into the word Gentile, can you pull the word Gentile up?
You want it in a blue letter? Or?
Yeah, Baba Kushar. Because when you deal with it, you got to deal with context, because we know ultimately that the Heavenly Father is not coming, all right, or sending Yahweh Shai, or has sent Yahweh Shai to die for all nations. That's false. All right, real quick, before you get that, can you get Isaiah the 40th chapter? And what's it, like the 10th verse maybe? Let me see. Not the 10th verse. 15.
Okay. So Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 15 says, "Behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket."
Right. So when we dealing with the scriptures, we have to take everything in account. We can't just pick and choose or cherry pick. People try to say we do that, but we deal with everything according to the scriptures. All right. We deal with everything. All right. So when you bring out scriptures like this, where you have verses that say the nations are as a drop of a bucket, which ultimately is showing the insignificance that, the nations have. All right, now do they play a role to the, the plot, the movie, Yahweh's existence? Yes. All right, but we understand that ultimately their role in this movie is slavery. Is to be captives, is to be servants under the nation of Israel. All right, nations where we will teach and push the law, statutes, and commandments unto, But you got it, bro.
It says, and are counted as the small dust of the balance.
See, they are counted as the small dust of the balance. See? So when you got a balance, all right, you got two scales, all right? They tip up and down depending on what the weight is, all right, on each side. But if you got dust, you know what I'm saying? Take a little bit of flour,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? Or sugar, something light, blow it off and a little specks of dust on it. It doesn't make the scale tip.
Right.
All right, like I said, again, showing the insignificance of the nations. And, we can go into countless scriptures showing, how ultimately, these nations were set and created to be opposing forces to the Heavenly Father and to the nation of Israel. You see? Because that's how the Lord set it up. All right? You got it, bro.
It says, he taketh up the isles as a very little thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Lebanon is
right, the islands. You see? You got it, bro.
And Lebanon is not sufficient to burn, nor the beast thereof sufficient for a burnt offering. All nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted to him less than nothing and vanity.
Mm-hmm. Right, they are counted unto him less than nothing and vanity. All right? Plain and simple. You see? So, like I said, when you're dealing with the Gentile matter, you got to, understand these things through the spirit. All right? But pull that word Gentile up in the etymology, Baba Kushar. I just want to see what it says through the spirit. Because they got these various definitions, but like I said, again, we got to know when and where to apply them and how they apply, You got it, bro.
Gentile in the online etymology says one who is not a Jew, one who is not a Christian, a pagan, of the same family or clan.
Right. See, and that's the trip up. You know, because ultimately, when you deal with Gentile, it deals with what ethnos. All right. Your ethnic background. Okay. Your tribe, like you say, your clan, etc. You know, now, you know, we know Esau, you know, he plays with words. He uses, you know, double speak, so on and so forth. So he tries to, you know, throws things like not a Jew in there, you know, so on and so forth. But we understand that there are two fractions of a Gentile. You got the natural Gentiles and you got the Gentiles who are put, all right, or considered Israelite foreigners in the scriptures. You see? And we got plenty, it's plethora of scriptures to show how we got into that Gentile state. All right, real quick, you get that in Deuteronomy 28. What's that? 64. Say he will scatter us amongst all nations.
Yep.
Is that 64?
Yeah.
You got it, bro.
Deuteronomy 28.
Right. So you know, pretty much, we're just gonna give you a brief summary on how we, you know, became Gentiles or put in a Gentile state. You know, you got it.
Deuteronomy 28 verse 64 says, "And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone."
See? One more time on that, Baba Kushak.
Yep.
So like I said, you know, you got to understand the history behind Jake. All right, what we went through, what we had to endure, so on and so forth. One more time.
Yep. Deuteronomy 28 verse 64. "And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people for one end of the earth, even unto the other."
Right, so you have to deal with the scattering. All right, what did the scattering lead to? All right, so on and so forth. Okay, where were we scattered? And we know ultimately we were scattered, like I said, across the four winds of the earth. Okay, because when you look here, like the scriptures speak of, he shall be a light to the Gentiles. We were Gentiles. Can you get that Ephesians real quick? You in time past were Gentiles in the flesh. It's at 2 and 6, 2 and 16. Real quick. All right.
Yep. Ephesians 2 and verse 11.
11, stop the water.
It says, "Wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh."
Right. Why did Paul make that statement to the Ephesians at that time? All right. Or the Israelites in Ephesus. See, it's like he said they were in times past Gentiles in the flesh, meaning they were keeping the customs, the ways, all right, of the heathen. And in that, they were likened unto heathen. You see? Can you find that precept in I think it's is it Psalms 36 with David? I think it's 36. Psalms 36. Psalms 36 in verse. Is it 36 or is it 39? 1 second. I think it's the Psalms.
Quoted, what is it?
Or is it 106? Psalms 106, I believe. I think it's Psalms 106 start at like 35 or like start at 30. So yeah, Psalms 106.
Psalms 106, starting at verse 30, says, "Then stood up Phinehas and executed judgment, so the plague was stayed."
Right, it's going into some history. All right, you got it, bro.
"And that was counted unto him for righteousness unto all generations forevermore. They angered him also at the waters of strife, so that it went ill with Moses for their sakes, because they provoked his spirit, so that he spake unadvisedly with his lips." they did not destroy the nations concerning the Lord whom the Lord commanded them.
Right. So, like I said, just going into some of that history, all right, so on and so forth, pretty much the rebellion of the nation of Israel. You got it.
But were mingled among the heathen and learned their works.
You see, they were mingled among the heathen and learned their works, learned the ways of Canaan, out of the different Hamite nations that surround us, the Amorites, so on and so forth. You see? So this is how we became Gentiles. And, that pretty much started a while back, all right, even prior to us being called Gentiles. You had Jake, who was already, intermingling with heathens, so on and so forth. All right, even, when you look at it, look at during the time of Solomon, dealing with Rehoboam and Jeroboam. Okay, you had Jeroboam, all right, who, pretty much left the hands or the grasp of the southern tribes, all right, or Rehoboam at that time, and what took the 10 tribes with him, okay, during that time. And what did he do right away? He set up a calf for the northern tribes to worship, you see? All right, and we know through a process of time, all right, that ultimately, the northern tribes were dispelled from their land and heathens were imported into their land, okay? But you still had a remnant of, the northern tribes, so on and so forth, who were still in that land. And what did they do? They kept the customs of the heathen, all right? Set up, different temples, so on and so forth. Real quick, can you find that? I think it's in, it might be 1 Kings, the 2nd chapter. See if I can find it. Where it says he set up a golden calf. Jeroboam. Give us 1 second, Baba Kushah. Where's the 2nd Kings?
2 Kings 10.
No, that's going into Elijah and Elisha. No, I think it's
Got it?
hold on. Read that, for sure.
2 Kings 10 and verse 29 says, "Howbeit from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, Jehu departed."
Yeah, that's a good one.
Departed not from after them, to wit, the golden calves that were in Bethel, that were in Dan. And the Lord said unto Jehu, because thou hast done well in executing that which is right in mine eyes, hast done unto the house of Ahab according to all that was in my heart, thy children of the 4th generation shall sit on the throne of Israel.
Con, can you read that one more time?
Yeah.
Or I think it may be 2 Kings 17. Let me see.
Yeah, I think that's what you got.
Just some history going into it. Start at the top.
2 Kings 7.
No, jump down to 21. Yeah, that's what I want. 21.
2 Kings 17 or 10?
2 Kings 17.
21.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 Kings 17, 21. For he rent Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king. And Jeroboam drave Israel from following the Lord.
You see? Yup, you got it.
It made them sin a great sin. For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam which he did, they departed not from them. And to the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria to this day.
You got it.
And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cutha, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof.
Right, and that's, just really dealing with the northern tribes, all right? But showing you, how, they came, or were put into a Gentile state, you see? And then when you go into it further, all right, after that, what you had the Babylonian captivity that dealt with Jake, all right, or, the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, okay? And then what they ultimately went to the Medo-Persian Empire captivity, and then to the Greek captivity, where Jake was completely Hellenized, all right? And we read about that history in 2 Maccabees, the 6th chapter, or really all through it, Real quick, can you grab 1 Maccabees 1 and you can start at, let me see. You can start at like 30. Lord willing.
1 Maccabees 1 and verse 30, it says, and spake peaceable words.
And we know this is dealing with Antiochus Epiphanes the Fourth. You see? So, pretty much we just going into various points on how, we were turned into Gentiles, so to speak. All right? You got it, bro.
1 Maccabees 1:30, and spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. When they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city, and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire, and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive, and possessed the cattle. Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall, and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein.
Gone.
They stored it also with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, and so they became a sore snare.
Yep.
For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel.
Right, like I said, just going into the history behind Antiochus Epiphanes' works, all right? The vile man, all right, according to the scriptures. I believe that's in Daniel, the 8th chapter, his sword slaughter that he performed upon Jerusalem. Like I said, ultimately dealing with the southern tribes, in particular, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. All right, you got it.
It says, verse 37, thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it. Insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her.
Yep, going into the land. You got it.
Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning.
Yep.
Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and every one should leave his laws, and all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king.
See, so this is, like I said, Jake prior to this was already, worshiping different idols, so on and so forth, keeping their customs, mingling with them, etc. All right, but this was like the nail in the coffin at this point. All right, and then furthermore, during the time of slavery, all right, when we came over here on the transatlantic slave ships, okay, where Jake was just completely through. You got it, bro.
It says, verse 33, yeah, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath.
Right, you see? One more time.
Verse 43, yeah, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath.
Right, like I said, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, you see? So like how we just read in that Ephesians, the 2nd chapter, 11th verse, it said, what ye are in time past, Gentiles in the flesh. How are they Gentiles in the flesh? Performing acts like this, consenting to, the religion of the Greeks or the fashion of the Greeks or the Romans, all right? Being in league with them, so on and so forth, you see? So, a lot of Jake were, who consented to the religions, and throughout the generations were just completely raised up as Gentiles, okay? We had, some notable men, like the Hasmonean dynasty, so on and so forth, different family trees who did keep the customs and the laws, who did rebel and fight against Antiochus and his forces at that time, who ultimately, stayed and followed the customs, okay? But a lot, okay? A lot of, Israelites, like I said, conformed and throughout their generations were, acting like complete heathen, man. You see? And that was the whole fuss about, the circumcision and the uncircumcision in the New Testament. Okay? Plain and simple. You can keep going.
Verse 44 says, for the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days.
Right, and see, this is what made us separate from the heathen. All right, the law, statutes, and commandments are our ways. You see, they were holy. All right, like the scriptures speak about in Deuteronomy, this is our wisdom in the sight of the nations. This is what made us peculiar. This is what made us different. Of course, by, our biology and our, our gene, so to speak, us just being better, stronger, faster, etc., smarter. All right. But, our customs as well. You see, this is what made us separate from the heathen. You got it.
It says, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts.
Just straight heathen activity, man. All right, so like I said, when you're dealing with the Gentile matter, you have to take all these things into account, like our apostles say, in particular, Apostle Gabar, you got to know the history to understand the mystery. See? You got it.
It says that they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation. To the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances.
You see? So they may forget the law and change all their ordinances, man. This is how Jake got into a Gentile state. This is why they were considered Gentiles in the New Testament. You see? Because on the flip, you have scriptures like Revelation 2:26 that say, to the saints, okay, who endure to the end are what? Going to receive power over the nations. All right, so like I said, you had to factor in all these things when you're dealing with certain scriptures, man. You got it, bro.
It says, verse 50, and whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. In the selfsame manner wrote he to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, every one that forsook the law. And so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee from succor.
Right, see? So this is, like I said, just some history on how we became Gentiles. All right, fast forward into the New Testament. Now you have Jake who were in the Gentile state, and you have Jake who stayed, like I said, kept the custom laws, etc., in the land. And that was the feud, you see? Because ultimately, you got to understand these things, like I said, to get the full breakdown, of the conversations, dealing with the Gentiles, so on and so forth. You got to understand why Yahweh Shai said, go into the, what did he say? Go not to the way of the Samaritans. Can you grab that? Or go not to Samaria, Baba Kushan Matthews. Or into the way of the Gentiles. All right. The different feuds that was going on, etc., the history, okay?
So Matthew 10 and verse 5, it says, "These 12 Yahushua sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not in the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not."
Right, okay. And then what happened in Acts, the first chapter, it, pretty much they were commissioned to go to Samaria. Who did they send first? I believe they sent Philip. All right, they sent Philip first, and, they got a good report. All right, and then they sent, I believe, Peter. Then Peter went, if I'm not mistaken. All right. Okay, but why did it say go not to the way of the Samaritans? All right, because like I said, you deal with the feud between the northern tribes, etc. You had, like I said, Jeroboam who set up idols, so on and so forth. Okay, and the northern tribes who were keeping what? The heathenistic customs, were worshiping different idols, so on and so forth. So it was a feud between them. All right, then you think about the account. I think it may be in Chronicles, I believe, dealing with was it Hezekiah, when he extended his hand to the northern tribes to keep the Passover. What they laughed at him, they mocked him. You see, so it's been a long history, a long feud between the Israelites, all right, the northern and southern tribes. Those who were converted into Gentiles and those who kept the customs. It was a big feud, and like I said, that's why you have all this chaos in the New Testament, dealing with the uncircumcision and the circumcision, you see? So you got to understand all that history, man, through the Spirit and Lord's will. I may go into some things further in depth, but just giving you a brief overview on some of the things that put the nation of Israel in the Gentile state. All right, so that's it. Well, just something quick, put on wax, but with that, gonna give all glory and praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rechad Kodash. Double honor to our beloved elders and apostles, the great millstone. Shalom to the hopefully elect. And shalom to all the active pushing this truth with sincerity. I'll say shalom, Shalom.